Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Thursday. We're deep into October. It's the 27th. Halloween's right around the corner. Speaking of which, we got spooky Kyler Staley with us from the Hoosiers.com. Ghost version. Ghost version. Oh, yeah, still got that up. Kanye West, breaking news, Donda Academy cancels their hoop season.
Yeah,
shocker.
I mean,
what am I going to do with all my Yeezy collection, man?
I don't know. You might have to sell it.
The truth. He wants to see Indiana play Evansville. Well,
that
the
could
truth
happen.
says, when we going to get the truth on? You know what? One of these days, we're going to start taking calls and get the truth on. I know the truth. Like, I've heard him on like post-game football shows call in. That listening, he's down in the Evansville area. We appreciate you. We're going to get you on, man, because you've got some good stuff to say. Yeah, I don't know the in-state school thing. Yeah, but see, the thing is, those are games that some people look at it like, well, that's Indiana helping the other state schools. Well, not really. I guess it gives them some exposure, but if Indiana were to lose that game, I mean, Kentucky lost to them a couple years ago. But, when you lose to if you recall Indiana losing to Indiana State and Indiana Fort Wayne.
Yep.
And so that was just, you knew that, oh, boy, you're like, oh, things are bad. So I don't know where I am on the state school thing now. Because there's enough games that they could probably do that if it works out. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but
the
go ahead.
2 exhibition games. I mean, those are in-state schools.
So, yeah.
I mean,
and they're not, but they're not nearly as strong as say at Evansville. They're not. The D1 school. Marian is just a practice game. It is going. The AD there though is Steve Downing, by the way, former IU star from the 70s. Former Bob Knight assistant as well. So there's that. That's part of it. There's the IU connection. So that's probably has a little bit more to do with it than anything. You see that happen more when there's relationships. They do that. They schedule those kinds of games. But this Saturday, Indiana takes on Marian at 3:00, of course, in an exhibition game. We'll get our first look at this season's Hoosiers and some mixes and matches of play. There will be visitors in the house, I'm assuming, Kyler Staley?
I would expect so. Yeah, I mean, you could get the local guys like Jalen and Trent. They might come for the games, but right now we're still kind of working on confirming to see if there are going to be some visitors this weekend. Right now we haven't heard anything concrete wise, but I mean, Indiana right now, they're on the road. They're hitting up practices right now and recruiting. Mike Woodson and Kenya Hunter just went down to Florida yesterday, I believe, to IMG Academy. That is where Tamar Bates came from to check out a 2023 prospect, big man prospect, Braden Pierce, 7 foot, 245 pounds, was originally in the 2022 class, but took a prep school or a prep year, and now he's in the 23 class. So that's a little interesting. I mean, there's no offer there, but I mean, it looks like they're still trying to see if they can find a big guy, a front court piece in that 23 class.
Well, and is a little interesting because that's the first truly big that I remember Mike recruiting. I mean, he doesn't, well, I mean, he's gone after some 6'10" guys, but they've been really hitting those 6'8", 6'9" guys.
The athletic guys.
And that kind of positionless basketball, whatever you want to call it. But 7-footer would be kind of a little different. There's also I think that Montverde has a 7'6" player, I think.
I think so. I don't know.
It's like a sophomore.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Reaching out to us, the 7-footer. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's surprising. It's just different from what we've seen thus far.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, like you said, it's not really Woodson's like kind of cup of tea. That's more of a Matt Painter type of thing. I bet Painter is he is recruiting this kid, but yeah, it's just interesting because you thought the 23 kind of class was kind of over with at this point. Maybe in the spring they would look at a guy maybe to, maybe they can get late. But I mean, I guess Pierce maybe kind of falls into that category. Maybe they get him late in the season. But yeah, it is interesting. It shows to me that they do realize the need of a front court player in the 23 class in the 23 season. I still expect them to, hit the transfer portal hard next year. But I mean, I don't know much about this guy, but from what I sound, you can't teach a 7-foot tall guy. So we'll see about that. I don't know how the recruitment is going to develop right there. Like I said, there's not an offer yet. So we'll just see how that kind of develops.
Yeah. We've talked with Alec quite a bit, that IU is going to have to hit the portal, because they'll have at least 2 open scholarships. That's with the way things are right now. A little surprising that they weren't able to close that out via the old-fashioned recruiting. I'll be honest with you, in this second season, as you have to win. But I think that although Mike Whitson and crew only had 1 season, I think that people from the outside should be able to look and say, well, they made a hell of a lot of improvement in 1 season. And to see that things are going in that right direction. But everyone also knows that this is Trace Jackson Davis last season, Race Thompson's last season, that they're going to get kind of decimated there. Xavier's last season. So they're going to have, and then there's the possibility that it could be a one and done for Jalen Hood-Schifino. Not saying it is, but if that were to be the case, Indiana would get wrecked. So I can understand some guys sitting back and looking and waiting to see one more year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we talked about it before on here. I mean, a lot of these prospects, they want to see Indiana win. And this year is perfectly example of, if they can win a Big Ten championship and everything. It's going to open the eyes for the 24s and the 25s. Those classes is going to open them. It's like, okay, Indiana's a winning program. Woodson gets guys to the NBA. It'll be a perfect match made in heaven right there. But yeah, there is question marks. I mean, right there, you have potentially 4. I mean, Miller Koff is another guy. I mean, there's 5 open spots and stuff. They got the backcourt situation, somewhat figured out, I would say, with Gabe Cupps and Ja'Kai Newton coming in for the 23 class, but that front court situation, I mean, that's a really key area of focus for Indiana, and they're going to have to figure out whether they want to get guys that commit late, they want to get a guy like Derek Queen to reclassify and come in a year up, or they want to hit the transfer portal. Still question marks, and I mean, obviously adding this Braden Pierce guy to their kind of target list is very interesting.
Yeah. Also, I know that yesterday I saw a post from Heritage Hills basketball that assistant Brian Walsh was down to see 2025 forward Trent Sisley, which of course Indiana has just basically adopted. Him and Jalen Harrelson, they have almost adopted those guys, showing the love.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Walsh, I mean, he's been really the lead recruiter with Trent. Those two have really built a big relationship. And then also, I mean, people kind of miss this. From what I heard yesterday, I think it was Yasir Roseman was up here at Fisher's checking out Jalen Harrelson. So it was a big recruiting day. You had Woodson and Hunter down in Florida. And then you got Brian Walsh going down there to continue to build that relationship with Trent Sisley. And then obviously you got Yasir up here, checking out Jalen. So Jalen and Trent, they're going to keep recruiting those guys the hardest out of any 25, I think. And they're just continuing to build a strong relationship. It's a really good, strong relationship at this point.
And that's what you have to do. And that's why I think that even though they kind of whipped a little bit on this class, that they just didn't have the relationships established yet for this year. I think going forward, beginning next season, that's not going to be the case. But this season was just one that caught them, and guys that were further into their decision-making process. But I just think that that's all it was about, timing.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about Woodson's first year. He basically had to re-recruit the players that were already on IU. So that took up a lot of his recruiting. And then he was able to, build relationships with the other 3 before Malik committed. You had Caleb, CJ, and Jalen. He was able to build that relationship, and, they bought into what Woodson is trying to sell his program on and everything. And then you get Malik, which was huge for them. And then it's just kind of, The 23s really were just, I don't know, they were just a little hesitant, in my opinion. You know, they saw what Indiana did last year. You know, there was a lot of ups and downs throughout the season and everything, and they're just a little bit, nervous. You know, we commit to Indiana. Is that going to be a winning program? Is Woodson going to do what he says he can do and get me to the NBA? I don't know. But the 24s and 25s, I know they're really recruiting those kids hard. You know, they're building the relationships 2 years in advance. So expect to see, the 24 class. It's going to have a lot more commits, I think, moving forward. And then the 25 class, they're continuing to build strong relationships there as well.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing who will be in attendance this weekend. I don't expect to. I think we're going to get to see a lot of different players play this week of the scholarship guys. I do expect the starting lineup to be what most of us already assume is Trace Race, of course. I think Miller Kopp is in that starting lineup along with Xavier and Jalen Hood-Schifino. And then I'm interested to see what goes on from that point and how they're going to handle it. Caleb Nost, a contributor to the Hoosier.com, says that 7'6" kid can barely run the floor. He'll absolutely end up in West Lafayette, though. Yeah, that sounds a lot like Zach Edey.
Yeah,
we'll see. Robert Schwartz says that's what the Crossroads Classic would be good for. Yeah, that's why they got rid of the Crossroads Classic. It would be good for those teams without Indiana in it. Yes, I agree with you. If you want the Crossroads Classic should be Evansville, Ball State, Valpo, and whomever else, IU Fort Wayne or whatever.
Indiana State.
Yeah, there you go. That was horrible for Indiana. It cost them opportunities. But getting back off of that, Caleb Nost also said he spoke to Scott Heddy earlier this week. He plans on playing everybody. 3 Division I transfers on their roster and several others that had D1 interests. What team is he talking about?
I think he's talking about Marian.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of Steve Downing. He's the AD, not the coach. But yeah, I expect them to play everybody. I mean, of course, they're going to go through it. And why not? It's an exhibition. It's practice. It's practice for them. It's not going to be fun practice for them probably because of the defense that they're going to face. It's probably should be. If it's not, there's a problem. But it should be the hardest defense they have faced and will face all season. If not, even though it's Indiana's first game, then they're behind.
Yeah, I agree with that. I obviously I don't know who Marian's second exhibition game is, but I mean, yeah, Indiana's defense is going to give them a lot of trouble. It's just not a good matchup for both teams, really. But it's also cool in the way for these Marian kids. I looked at the roster. A lot of guys that I watched during the high school season and stuff. There's about 10 out of the 13 kids I think are on that roster that are from the state of Indiana. So it's really cool for them to experience going into Assembly Hall, playing IU. I mean, I expect there to be a pretty decent crowd there, especially with no football going on this week. Getting a first look at this Indiana team at Assembly Hall. So, I mean, it's just big. It's an awesome experience for Marian. Same goes for St. Francis. You've got Braden Bailey, son of Damon Bailey, who plays on St. Francis. I think that's honestly one of the coolest stories that's kind of under the radar this season for him to come in and get the chance to play at Assembly Hall where his dad had great success at. So, at the end of the day, it's all about, practice, but it's also about the experience of the opposing teams.
Practice? We gonna talk about practice? Practice. We're sitting up here talking about practice. Can't ever miss that, man. The truth says, and we just can get one pure shooter like Steve Alford. Somebody is gonna be in trouble this year, says the truth. If they had a pure shooter on this team, they would be a top 5 team. Well, I'm not saying they don't have a pure shooter. If they had a known consistent shooter, they would be a top 5. If Miller Kopp is hitting at a clip of 40%, that's going to make a difference for Indiana. That's going to elevate them. That's going to make them extraordinarily dangerous. because that is the difference between them being a top 15 team and a top 5 team. If they have a guy that you can count on, then you have to be aware of him. You have to respect that shot. That means you can't be sagging in, trying to play. Then you got race and trace. What are you going to do with that? And then you've got Jalen Hood-Schifino and Xavier Johnson, both who can create their own shot or make their own shot. So, yeah, a shooter, a consistent shooter that you can count on makes this team a top 5 team. Yeah. They're not until I see that, though.
Yeah, I mean, you can obviously, a lot of fans and us media, like, we kind of circle in on Miller Kopp, but you can also look at other guys to step up. What about Tamar Bates, coming off the bench? What about, maybe we see CJ Gunn, we see Caleb Banks come in off the bench and, they can light it up and whatever. But, it's just going to be a lot of different pieces and everything. Miller would be the one guy you would think that has to make the improvements. I mean, he is the shooter of the team, but it's also, it's going to be a team effort. Race Thompson continuing his trending up, stretching the floor, and then Xavier Johnson was really good about shooting the outside ball towards the end of the season. So if he can continue that momentum, that would be great. But that's one of my big storylines heading into this season, or heading into this game on Saturday is, where's the shooting production going to come from? You expect Miller Kopp, but we'll just see, how the different lineups kind of circulate throughout the game. We'll just see who can provide that outside shooting at the consistent rate on Saturday.
Don Fisher on Monday with us on the show said that Trey Galloway has been shooting the ball a lot better, which that in and of itself would also be a huge boost for Indiana, because he is not someone I can consider an offensive contributor, a consistent offensive contributor.
Right.
He's more of a facilitator, if that makes sense. But having him contribute offensively, again, just makes this team more scary. Because then if you've got a Tamar Bates, if he has made a jump, and Geronimo, if he has made a jump, well, you've got a deep, talented team. And that's before we know if any of the freshmen besides Jalen Hood-Schifino, Malik Reynaud, heard that we'll be seeing him. Caleb Banks, CJ Gunn, I don't know. It's hard to tell. We will see them on Saturday. I'm quite confident of that. If CJ Gunn does what he does, steps out and starts knocking down shots, you can't keep a guy off the floor that knocks down shots. It's that simple. And they will get their opportunities. But, man, in high school, I watched him do that a lot. And I watched him do it at crunch time. I watched him do it in the fourth quarter. I watched him do it with guys hanging on him. Different league. It's moved up, but you never know. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with CJ, he's got a ton of confidence in his game and his shooting. And you could see that. I expect this weekend, depending on what guys are available, with these exhibition games, there's a few guys that they always hold out on. There could be a slight injury. I don't know if Anthony Leo's going to play. The last time we saw him was at Hoosier Stadium, and he was in a walking boot. So that's a guy to kind of keep an eye on. But I expect every player that's available, especially the scholarship athletes, I expect them to play this Saturday. And then I just expect Woodson to just kind of, get creative with his lineups and just see what works and what doesn't work. You could see a lineup where you see Jordan Geronimo, Race, and Trace all in at the same time, a big lineup, or you could see a small ball lineup where you got, Trace is only big there. You just don't know. And then this is like the perfect time to figure it out with Woodson to kind of see, okay, what guys play well together, what guys don't play well together, and just kind of, narrow down his, what I think is going to be a 10-man rotation for this season. So it'll be interesting to see. You'll see the development of the freshmen this Saturday. You'll see a lot of things that Indiana fans have been kind of waiting on patiently over the summer.
Yeah, Colin Hartman said the same thing. He expected to get down to about 10, and that makes sense. That just that's still a lot of guys. But if those 10 guys are all improved, this is going to be a fun season to watch. What can the people look forward to from you next at thehoosier.com?
Right. So yeah, we still got a lot of recruiting updates coming in the next few days. And then we are finishing up our player previews. We've got Malik tomorrow, so we're going to schedule that out. And then I'm also writing a story right now with 3 storylines to watch for on Saturday's game. So that should be done in the next hour or so. So I would expect that to be up on the website either later this evening or maybe tomorrow morning. We'll see.
Perfect. Looking forward to that. And then of course, Alec Lasley will be on with us tomorrow to get us updated even further. And then of course, Saturday, there will be continued coverage with the game, live threads, all of that at thehoosier.com.
Yep. We'll have all of that. I think we'll have pretty much a full team there. So it's exciting. You know, the basketball season's right around the corner and it's about to get busy.
Absolutely. Kyler Staley, make sure you give him a follow at Kyler Staley and at thehoosier.com. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You bet.